Aloha, welcome to the Friday Marketing Jam Session. I'm Tom Gaddis, coming to you from sunny Las Vegas. My business partner coming to you from the Alps in Switzerland. He just finished eating a big pot of fondue, so he may be a little tired during the live show. But welcome, everybody. We're excited you're here. We got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about some remote travel hacks. We've also got a special guest, Nick Luisi, on the call, so we can talk about sales, closing deals, all that stuff. We'll take your questions. It's going to be an all-around good time today. So grab a water, grab a tea, grab a drink, sit back, relax. I'm going to cue up the intro, and we'll see you back here in one momento.
It's now time, the moment you've been waiting for. Get ready for the fastest 60 minutes of marketing strategies and tactics to build your remote empire from anywhere in the world. After 167 agonizing hours, they've finally returned. From the sun-soaked Sin City and the sandy shores of Maui, Hawaii, now back for a brand new Aloha Marketing Jam Session. It's your hosts, the Offline Sharks and Remote Millionaires, Tom Gaddis and Nick Ponte.
Oh yeah, that crowd is fired up out there. Oh, come on, settle down, people, settle down. Settle down. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Let's go in the chat and see who all is here. Juan, what's up? Darla, Facebook user says, let's go. Lori, hello. How's it, Sharks Farm? Hey, Maddie, Michael, Richard, Kevin. Welcome, everybody. Jacqueline, Chandra. Excited to have you here for another live jam session. Welcome, welcome, welcome. People are coming on. Awesome. So, Nick, you're in the Alps.
Yeah, I'm in the Alps.
Oh, Andrew coming to us from YouTube. What's up, Andrew? Kyle from Colorado Springs. Welcome. How is the Alps? So is it like snow skiing, snowboarding weather up there, or not really?
No, it's like spring, right? So a lot of the snow is gone. Yeah, I mean, you can see snow-capped mountains all the way around, but yeah, for the most part, it's, just kind of light, cold weather, hoodie weather, and yeah. It's really nice up here. It's beautiful right now.
Awesome. Yeah, I can see you're in I was telling Nick before the show, he's in like the third level of the chalet he's staying in. I can see the wood ceilings. Looks nice.
Yeah, it's a little gingerbread town. I actually lived up here for like 3 months back in the day when I was like 21. And my first mentor, he had a ski house up here, so this is where I learned how to snowboard, up in this place. And I haven't been back here for probably I think over a decade, and wanted to take Sloan out here and show her where I used to live in Basel, and then up here in the Alps. And obviously it's a really cool adventure just getting up here. You have to like drive 4 hours from the city. You have to put the car on a train that goes through the mountain.
Oh my gosh,
such a weird experience, like being in a car on a train moving, but you're not driving. And you're going through a mountain for like 20 minutes and it's pitch black. I feel like, on Willy Wonka, when they go through the tunnel on the boat and everything goes crazy, it's kind of what it feels like, because once you come out to the other side, it's just huge, beautiful, giant mountains all around you, and you can just see super far, and it's just it's a really pretty sight.
Wow. Yeah, that picture you posted from the little balcony area was really great. That view was awesome.
Yeah, man, they have, surprisingly enough, really, really good Wi-Fi up here. Extremely good Wi-Fi. So, and what we're going to talk about today, remote travel hacks, my routine here has been pretty solid. I've been able to do really all of the things that I need to do. And each day going a little like hike. Today we went and saw like the biggest glacier in Switzerland, which is like up in the mountains. We got on a gondola, we went up there. I worked in the morning, went up and saw the glacier, came back, had dinner, and I've been here working for probably about 3 hours now.
Yeah, because you're like 9 hours ahead of me in Nevada, so it's like what, 9 p.m., a little after 9 o'clock at night there?
Yeah, it's 9 o'clock right now.
Yeah, it's interesting, like how you adjust your schedule when you go different places, right? Like you mentioned, you get up in the morning, you do a little bit of work, you go do your stuff, Now you're back doing a little bit more stuff, and like establishing that that rhythm with people. I know we talk about this a lot in some of our trainings on having a remote team and living the remote lifestyle and all that stuff, because sometimes you're working with people that are in very different time zones from where you are, right? So getting in that routine of checking in the mornings, checking in at night, so that continuous flow can be happening when you're doing the things that that you want to do during the day is really important.
Yeah, it is really important. And I think you and I are, spoiled in the sense of like when we started doing this, we started out of Hawaii. So
Yeah.
we've always had to deal with time zones, and especially if you're working with teams that are contractors and other countries. Who's doing that, by the way? Who is working with somebody else on their team that is like in another country, doing arbitrage or outsourcing, as they call it. For those of you that are, you know what we're talking about. You're working with people that are outside of your time zone. And so if you're working with people outside your time zone, like I said, Tom and I being in Hawaii, basically everybody is outside of our time zone, at least by 5 hours, right? 3 to 5 hours at least.
Three, and sometimes 6, depending. It was really different at, Hawaii had its own challenges because you were behind, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and so it always felt like when we woke up in the mornings there, like it was just like the first 3 to 4 hours were just catch up. Because like everybody else had already been working for 5-6 hours, and you're just trying to get caught up on what's going on. Mm-hmm. But it is nice when you have that nighttime and not everybody's around. Like you can do a lot more focused work.
Well, that's what it's really all about. It's you have to find a schedule that works for you, and whatever that schedule is in your time zone that you're most familiar with, you have to try to replicate that as much as you can wherever you go, or at least I've found that's the way that works for me, and by that I mean, like, even back home every day, I know a lot of people say start your day with a cold plunge and red light therapy and fasting and doing all these things. There are so many great biohacks out there, and I've tried damn near every single one of them, but you really just, not everything works for everybody. You just have to find out what works for you and do that. And for me, what works the best is like waking up in the morning, throwing out a pot of coffee, and just getting right to work. Like that's what I do. People can hate on that or not. Maybe if you do that, give me a shout out in the comments. I'd love to hear if you're also doing the same. But that being said, I do the same thing regardless of where I'm at. Every day I wake up. If I'm in Switzerland, I'm in New York, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to have at least 2 to 3 hours of uninterrupted work, and that will give me a solid chunk of time, even when I'm traveling, to get some things done, to keep the teams moving forward. Whether it's in the agency or in Offline Sharks or Remote Millionaires, there's progress being done. And if you can keep just that little thing wherever you are, you're going to be able to have a good time, but you're also going to be able to continue to move the ball forward and progress your teams.
Yeah, I saw somebody ask what we're talking about today. So right now we're just talking about a few little remote travel hacks since Nick's traveling. He was in France before, now he's in Switzerland in the Alps. And I think that's a key thing that you hit on there. Like probably the biggest hack, if you want to call it that, or thing you can do is just, having routines and sticking to those routines. And that requires, like, when you go to travel or you're going to do things, mapping that stuff out before, like thinking about like, okay, I know, like, even when I'm going to take some time off and not go anywhere, like if I'm just going to stay and just spend time with the family, but step away from work for a little bit, like it still requires me to look at what's happening before, what's going to go on in that week when I'm not going to be as available as I normally am, like getting ahead of things so that there's no gap from anybody, because when you're working with other people, it's like they're depending on you to do things and stuff like that. So, getting a little ahead of the game, having those key times even through the week of where, like, okay, well, I know, like, I can spend, an hour to 2 hours checking in on these days, and I can check in here and continuing to do that. But having that routine planned out, not, I used to think like, oh, well, I'll just figure it out while it's going on, but that's like a recipe for disaster, right? So, and then I think the other thing for me too, and this is probably the same for you Sloan, and the things you want to do is like mapping out the things you want to do and like communicating with the people closest to you about what's going on. Like, hey, you know I'm always telling Miranda and the kids, look, from this time to this time, I'm not going to be available, right? This time to this time, I'm not going to be available, so that everybody sort of has a heads up of what's going on, even writing that out and giving it to them so that they know, like, hey, these are the times that we don't bug Dad because he's doing things. But then that allows me to really like to be able to enjoy the time I do have with them, right? Because I don't have to worry about like, is something not getting done? Did I miss something? Like by taking just that focused time and getting it out of the way, then I can really relax and just be present and enjoy what I'm doing with them.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, in the early days for me, and I'm actually curious about what the other Nick has to say about this, because I know he's a family man and he spends a lot of time doing a lot of fun stuff too. But I mean, in the early days for me, I would try to do the remote thing with my family and people around me and just like work the whole time, like from my phone. And I did, and arguably like I had to. And it was the reason, there was traction that happened because it was like a 24-hour cycle of just working, I don't recommend that for everybody, for anybody. But there might be a time and a place where you feel like you need to make up for some lost ground, and I had that at some point, so I was doing that. But now I definitely am more aware of like communicating that to people. And then also I'm really glad you brought that up, communicating to the people around you, what you're doing and what it's like, because most people do not understand what it's like to actually run a remote business. They actually just think from the outside looking in, and I know this because I've talked to a lot of people, they just think you have complete like autonomy. No responsibilities. No responsibilities, nothing going on. And like, especially when you live in Hawaii, everybody wants to come visit there. Like every time I turn around, somebody's like, hey, we're coming to Maui, we're coming to visit. And I'm like, great, I can't be a tour guide for the 25th time this year. I'm sorry. Like I've already done it 24 times. So it's not happening again, but I'll meet you for dinner once or twice. And it's the same thing. Like, when I go somewhere else though, it's like, they don't know. And you have to explain to them like, yeah, I have commitments. I have meetings that I have to go to. Usually my mornings are busy. Afternoons and evenings are much better to do anything with me. But when I go somewhere else, like I will, like, for example, when I go to Denver to visit my brother and my nieces and nephews, I don't stay with them. Because I can't get anything done if I stay with them. It's convenient, it's cheaper, it's more cost effective. They have a spare bedroom, but I choose not to do it because I need to have that personal time to set myself up to actually keep things moving forward, and sometimes people don't think about it that way. They're not willing to spend the extra money to have that personal space so that they can do those things. But, in the world that I live in, like I have to do those things.
Well, and that's valuable, right? Much more valuable than saving the couple $100 that you would save by staying with your brother, right? You get a lot more value out of that time.
Right.
Awesome. Well, look, I know we want to get our guests out here. So why don't we run through the shout outs real quick? Then we'll get Nick out. We'll ask him what he does when he's traveling, because I know he travels a lot. And then we'll take your questions. So get your questions ready, pop them in the chat box. We'll go through some of those comments. We'll do that. So let's get to the shark shout out. So I'm going to fire up my screen here.
Let's do it. Here we go. Richard's got a team in Europe, New Zealand, Philadelphia, India, and Pakistan. Customers in New Zealand and Australia, 17 hours ahead, 19 hours ahead. Man,
woo.
Doing it. Richard is doing it. Congrats, Richie. Yeah. That's awesome.
Great work, Richie. All right, so our shout-outs for this week. First, we've got Michael DiCarlo closed a client, a hair salon, for 500 euros. That's $545 on a pre-configured website, thanks to Agency Growth Machine. I love to see that. A deal closed from that foot in the door method that we teach. So awesome work, Michael. Marvin Drobes closed a local electrician on a build, rank, and lease website that was already ranking. $500 a month for 12 months, and then for $1,000, he's purchasing it outright. That's a great deal, Marvin. Excellent work. Excellent work. We've got Dan Lesser picked up a solar company as a client for SEO, and and a premium listing. Pardon me. 549 pounds at 683 American dollars from doing leads, Gorilla, and SEO audits. So AI client goldmine, that's what we talked about in the last course we put out, right? So Dan closing some deals there. Awesome work. Danny Epstein closed a startup vending machine business, $299 a month per website with a client management system. So excellent work, Danny. We've got Andy Powell landed an $8,000 website deal after revamping his team and business. He added SEO, PPC, and website strategy, new pages and promo for $3,000 a month. TV app in Canada, a total of $8,150. That's awesome. Wow. Awesome. And then Nick Ponte Marketing. While Nick is traveling around Europe, the team there closed an $8,000 website to a coffee company plus $1,000 a month SEO package from cold call and follow up for several years. That's interesting. Maybe do you have a little insight on that deal, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, so Megan, our sales rep at our agency, closed that deal, and she said that the first time that she ever reached out to them was a couple years back, and when she followed up with them again more recently, about a month ago, I believe. I think it was a month ago, because when she came to Maui and we had dinner before I left, she brought me a bag of coffee from this place, and the coffee was delicious. I loved it, and then sure enough, a week or two later, she closed the deal. And so I don't know if that was part of her strategy. I didn't even ask that, but I do believe that she went there and bought some coffee and talked to the owner. And what I do know is that when she did follow up this time, they didn't even remember her from before. She was basically brand new again. So it's just a matter of continuing to follow up, right? And yeah, I mean, to me, the lesson in that is if somebody's on your list and they tell you no, that might just be for today. What can you do to turn that person into a yes later on? And that would be a question for Nick that I could ask him too. But yeah, it's only a matter of time, right? If you have people on your list, as long as you're engaging with them, you're nurturing those relationships. I don't know if it's email or DMs or what, if you go to their business and you pick up something in their business, that might be another way to, build the relationship. You got to do whatever you can, right? Is going somewhere and buying a bag of coffee worth an $8,000 website deal? I mean, you got to look at the big picture, sometimes you got to get creative. So
yeah, awesome stuff. So that brings our total for the week of May 13th through May 19th to $25,667. A grand total for the year since the start of 2022, since the start of 2023, $730,465. So congratulations, everybody out there that's taking action, posting those wins. If you're not posting those wins, please do so. We love to hear about them in the Facebook group. So excellent work, everybody. Excellent work. All right. Well, let's bring out our guest. I thought, what happened there? There we go. There we go. So you guys have seen him before on the live show. He works behind the scenes at Offline Sharks and Remote Millionaires in our sales department. Awesome salesperson, a fantastic addition to our team. He came, he used to work for GKIC with Dan Kennedy. Now he's helping us out. I'd love to hear from him. Give a warm welcome to Mr. Nick Luisi.
Hey, I love it. So we're talking about saunas, cold plunges, but then we move to fondue and wine, which I prefer over a cold plunge any morning, and that. And then you're like the $6 Million Man. That's a dated reference, but you're hanging out in Basel when you're younger. You're probably at Art Basel, right? Kind of cracking through the art scene. Then you come to Hawaii. Now you've got an agency. I mean, when I grow up, I want to be Nick Ponte. That's, that is my goal in life. And then Tom is a close second, as he's living the life in Vegas. When I grow up, so bonjour, très bien. It is wonderful to be here with you guys. I got to get you to do some skydiving on the Alps because, like I said, my daughter did that, and I want to see those pictures. But
I bet it was phenomenal.
Yeah. So, travel and agency work and virtual work, I know that's a topic today. And it's quite, it's something passionate for me because it's the reason why I started my company. We became empty nesters. So you guys have younger children or starting out families and but we became empty nesters with kids in college or finishing. And my wife travels a lot for her business. So we're like, well, why waste a first class ticket on one person when two could do it, right? So that's one of the reasons why I started my sales agency. So right now, as you and I are speaking, the three of us, she's packing a bag and going to Brussels for 7 days. Now I can't do it because we got some stuff going on, but in the future, I would. And so it's part of it, and I think it makes you a better business person. The world is flat, right? Everything is going on in the world, and I think it just makes you a better person. The agency world, we're creative, and seeing all this stuff. I mean, you go to Europe. It used to be that you had to go to Europe, and then that would show you what fashion trends are coming, but what colors are coming, and what's going on in the world. So I just think it opens your mind, and it makes you, for the work I do, a better salesperson. One is you understand other cultures, you understand other people, you understand how to interact with other cultures and how to sell to other cultures and how to understand and be not be a typical American. But no, so I love it. And like I said, when I grew up, I wanted to be Nick and Tom. But yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I know, Tom. We can relate to that too, right? Like when we went to Barcelona. I mean, it's just such a motivating thing to be out there and experiencing the world and seeing other things.
Yeah, you get a real sense of like, just how big, the world is and the differences in places. And even, like in our community in Offline Sharks, like seeing all the people in our community that are starting and building agencies in the places where they're located, like, I don't know if you really remember this, Nick, but like when I first got started in like trying to get an agency off the ground, and there's still a little bit of this, but like, it was really like you had to do it in the US. Like if you were outside of the US, everybody wanted to target inside the US. And that's really not the case anymore. I mean, like we have several remote millionaires that are in England and lots of other, Australia and New Zealand and lots of other places that are building thriving businesses in their own communities. I think we even have somebody in Nigeria that's working on building an agent there. It's like, that idea that you have to target the US, it's really not so much the case anymore, right? Like there's lots of businesses everywhere that can use help and with the things that we have. Canada too. Yeah. Andy, Canada as well. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. Nick, how long have you and your wife been doing the remote thing, working remotely and traveling like that?
Going on 4 years now.
Nice.
On 4 years. Yeah. And I thought Tom's tip was great because back when I didn't, and we would travel because we wanted to show the kids the world and we like it, right? It's one of our things that we agreed on when we were young, that when we got married, we were going to travel a lot as much as possible. I loved how he said, okay, Dad's got to work from this time to this time, but then after that you have me, right? And I'm going to be together. And so when we've traveled, and especially when you travel with other folks, you realize if they're running business or they're business people, they all focus on those blocks at times. And I think that's a great tip that both of you guys gave of just let's block some time and I got to do work at this time. And also spending so that you could do the work, right? So not staying at your brother's, right? It would be, like Tom said, it'd be great to save a couple $100, but what did you lose by not being able to focus on work? And I think, we've been doing it and I use it as part of my outreach as well as my follow-up. So the one things I always do is I grab as many postcards as I could possibly buy, right? And, I write them to, people, my clients, but also prospects, and that, either I mail them from there or when I get home, hey, I was thinking of you while I was there, that, love to be able to connect with you and learn about your travels.
That's a great tip right there.
Little direct mail, nurture relationship right there.
Cool, right? A little breakthrough that, or get gifts for clients of saying, hey, you know, this was the best cigar I ever had, like for Tom, the best cigar I ever had. And I got you 3 of them while I was thinking of you, or whatever it is. And you can get the stuff at duty free as you're, you know, kind of, so you don't have to carry it from town to town, but do that stuff. Take the pictures, shoot a video, shoot a generic video. Hey, I was thinking of you, I know that my team is working with you and we maybe got some new deals coming along the way, but just, you know, I'm here, you know, loving life at Art Basel and thinking of you. And I just wanted you to know that my team is here to support you. I'm here to support you. And when I get back in the States, let's catch up, right? So now you got that video that you could shoot to 15 to 20 to 30 different prospects, plus all of your clients. And, you know, the world is flat and people love authentic interaction with humans, and travel is part of it, and it just makes us better. And I'm a foodie, as you could tell, right? I don't cold plunge or that type of thing, so I just like to take pictures of the food and with the family. And then whenever, like, I had a random client said, oh my God, I love your lifestyle. I said, well, I love your business, so let's talk. But he's like, he saw us at the Oscars, and people we want to do business with people we know, like, and trust. And I think LinkedIn is a little sterile. So people go to Instagram and people go to Facebook, right? And that's how we learn really, truly who the person is, from their politics to their travel. Are they family men? Do they have pets? So it's all about that. Are they playing poker? Do they like vodka and wine, or is it bourbon and cognac?
Yeah, well, I think you hit on something there too. It's not just like know, like, and trust. They also like to do business with interesting people. Like, we like to hang, you like, think about yourself. I like to hang around interesting people. Like, you want to hang around. When you're going to be spending time with people, like, you want to get something from that relationships, and sometimes it's not just the service you're providing them or the work thing, right? Like, there's another side of that too. And I think another thing you hit on that was really important there too, Nick, that I didn't even mention about the blocking out the time and that kind of stuff, is that it's really easy for us as entrepreneurs and people that are trying to do something big, and we're go-getters. We want, like, we try to optimize. We're trying to live the best life we can. It's really easy when you're around the people closest to you to be not focused on them, right? I know I really have to work at that. Like, yes, I block that time off in the morning, but like, that means when I'm at dinner with my wife, like, I'm not checking my phone. Like, I put it in my pocket, I turn it off. Like,
that's why you're not picking up on my text messages or phone calls.
That's why I'm ghosting you. That's why. So it's like, I knew it. You have to make like, for me, that has to be a conscious effort. Otherwise, I'm always like, oh, I'll just take a quick look at my email, and that's really not fair, right? Like, I mean, I spend a lot of time working in the, in the business and things like that. And so it's like, I also want to make sure that I'm, doing right by the people closest to me when I'm spending time with them, and being focused on them, and, and really, like, putting myself into that situation as well. So, and, I do it with varying degrees of success, right? And then when I'm actually doing that and my wife is on her phone, I get irritated.
Of course.
Hey, I got mine in my pocket. What's going on? Anyway,
that's funny.
But yeah.
Nick, I wanted to ask you, because, I know, sales and that world is yours. And I wanted to ask you though, like, because I've really struggled with sales and prospecting while on the road, while traveling, so how do you do it? What's a good way for, like, somebody that's like the average bear? We have a lot of agency owners here. Sales and prospecting is usually the thing that people need to do most, but they like to be remote, or they like to try to travel. Like, is there a way to set things up for them to, be a little more successful, or just at least stay consistent? I think that's the biggest piece, right? It's like, you want to go out and do these things. I mean, you travel quite a bit. Do you work ahead of the traveling, or do you work and travel on your sales and prospecting? Do you take calls on your trips?
Yes, and yes. Right. Mm-hmm. So some of it is you got to sandwich the time, right? And it's okay. And you're going to forego something. You're going to forego sleep because you're working against different time zones, right? So it's going to be like, okay, I'm getting up, and one of the things that we always do is, we used to travel in hotels and then get bigger hotels, and then you go down to the lobby, but that doesn't work too much. So you try to get Airbnb so you get that extra room, right? And make sure it has good Wi-Fi. You mentioned, oh, they got crazy good Wi-Fi. And so you need to, I still think that as a business owner, there are times of your travels where you need to focus on getting the work done of the work, right? So of the agency. Right. You got to prospect, right? So you got to block time. And I'm big on blocking time. So it's blocking maybe 3 hours, but maybe it's 45 minutes, that I'm doing all 3 different time zones or 4 different time zones. And so I know I'm doing my morning stuff, email, right? You could do a lot of cold prospecting for that. If you have a sales call that you have to take, right, then it's just one of those things. Hey, this is what Dad's got to do in the morning, or honey, this is what I got going on. And we're good about managing calendars, right? Because everybody's in it together. The team is trying to win it together. And so you do all that stuff, but you do need to prospect. And I think we tell people all the time, be authentic. And if you're prospecting, especially cold prospecting, it's like, hey, you're never going to believe this, but I'm calling you from Paris, France. Not Paris, Texas, not Paris, Ohio, or the other Paris, Ohio, but I'm calling you from Paris, France. And, I just wanted to reach out to you. I know I've tried to get a hold of you, and I thought it'd be worth me dialing you today. Or a customer. Hey, I wanted to take this call, and I'm calling you from so-and-so. And I think it goes back to Tom, what he said. People want to do work with people that are interesting. But you got to block out time, especially in the early stages of an agency or a business, of doing those RPAs like you guys teach, right? So what are your revenue producing activities? You got to do it along the time. The other thing, Nick, that you said that just made me warm inside and smile was that your salesperson did drop-ins. I think that's a lost art form of doing that. Now, granted, when you're in Europe, you can't do it unless you have customers that you want to do. But just you just open the door and stop in people and say, you know what, I wanted to buy some coffee. I'd love to do some work with you. Here's who I am and what we do. Now isn't the time because you're managing your business, but I just wanted you to know I was in the area. I know you're one of the best coffee places in the world. Wanted to buy some, and I'm going to follow up in a day or two. And doing those door pulls in your community is so important because people, like Tom said, want to do business with people that we know, like, and trust and are interesting. But while you're traveling, you have to do it, and you have to be maniacal about it and manage your business. And that's tough, right? Because we want to sleep in when we're on vacation. But, if entrepreneurship was easy, nobody would do it.
Yeah. And you get more vacations, you get more vacations. So
yeah. Doing what's the saying, right? Doing today what others won't, so I can do tomorrow what others can't. Right?
Yeah,
like
amen. That's really a mantra.
Of that. Yeah, and I think another thing that you hit on there too that we haven't really touched on as well, Nick, is the different stages of your business, right? Like it really is important to be realistic, and you have to be brutally honest with yourself about what's really going on in your business and what are the important needle movers for you to stay focused on, right? If you're someone who's just trying to get your business off the ground, and you don't have, any clients, but you want to go take this trip, or you're going to go take this trip, like, you have to be really brutally honest that, like, look, I still have to get prospecting and outreach done when I'm doing this because I'm in the new stages of my business. And that may mean communicating with the people that you're going on the trip with. Like, look, I can't just not do this for a week or 2 weeks. Like, we're going to have to work out a schedule, and I'm going to have to block off some time and then stick to it. And then, of course, if you're in the later stages of your business, that can change, right? Because when we were early on building up the agency and offline charts and all that stuff, like, we did spend a lot more time focused on those activities, right? Because we're building, we're growing. Like, you don't want to lose that momentum. I see so many people that they're so fired up and so excited, and then they have to go on a trip, and it just crushes the momentum because they just step away, right? And they think, I'll just step away for this and then just come back. The problem is, when you just come back, like, then there's other things going on, maybe other problems. And all of a sudden you're like, it's much easier. It doesn't really seem like it at the time, but it's much easier to just block off an hour, 2 hours a day throughout your trip to just stay connected and moving forward, right? You may not feel like you're getting much done, which is okay. It's just the action of doing it and the routine and sticking with it will keep you connected so that when you are back, you're like, okay, now I'm ready to go.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And, everything doesn't always work out as planned. You have to, you have to be flexible. You really do. No, it's so true, and you mentioned it at the beginning, Tom, taking a trip and working remotely, usually that starts before the trip, right? It really starts when you're planning the trip out and trying to get ahead of things. And this is something that we've been talking a lot in Remote Millionaires lately, which is capacity. What is the capacity of your team right now? Are all of your web developers maxed out? Do they have too many projects to deal with? Well, if you get another deal while you're gone, what are they going to do? Are you going to have time to hire somebody while you're gone? No, you need to hire somebody ahead of your trip. So you have to know what the capacity is. Same for your advertising specialists, same for your project managers, same for your account coordinators. You have to know what capacity is for everybody. And if you can get ahead of it, then you should. Now, when I say everything doesn't always work out, like before I took this trip, for example, I knew we had a lot of clients coming in. You guys have seen that we had a lot of clients coming in. So hiring and building our team right now has just been an ongoing thing. Like it just seems like it is, right, Tom? It's just been never ending. And every time I'm like, okay, we finally got a great person there. It's like, hey, we need another one. We need another one. We need another one. I feel like DJ Khaled over here. But so we've been getting ahead of that. And I really felt like we got ahead of this trip. And man, when I'm out here, just the other day, I think 4 or 5 days ago, one of our main guys that we brought in specifically for this to get ahead of everything was like, hey, something happened. I mean, I really like this job and everything, but it's not going to work. We have to move. We're not going to be able to do this anymore. And I'm like, I felt like I got kicked in the nuts, like it really hurt. It hurt really bad. The business, like everything in my mind, I was stressed out. I'm like, how am I going to hire somebody? What am I going to do? And you just have to be flexible. You have to start figuring out what you're going to do. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to transition somebody to start adapting some of those responsibilities in that role, and do that for a little while until we can get back and focus down and bring in somebody else in. And at the end of the day, if you're somebody out there that's looking to do this, the reality is like Tom said, timing is important. Don't take a trip if you're not ready to take a trip. But also, I recommend do not take a trip if you are the only person in your business. You need to have somebody else there to help you. And they may not be full-time, they may not be the main point of contact, but you need to have a web developer building the websites if you're the one managing the projects. And that way you can manage the projects while you're gone and they can be doing the legwork. But if you're trying to do that all by yourself and you're going to take a trip, you're just setting yourself up for a disaster.
Yeah, well, and a lot of that comes back to what I mentioned earlier about being realistic and honest with yourself about where you're at and what's going on. And that is very hard to do as an entrepreneur because you just think, it doesn't matter what will happen. I can just put my head down and power through this, right? Like I can handle all this responsibility. And it's like, it's a hard thing to really look realistically at what's going on and be like, okay, this is really what I have to do. Because sometimes, like I know for me, sometimes I don't want to look at that stuff because if I look at it and I realize there's a long road ahead, like I don't want to be in that situation of reality, right? But sometimes you look at it and you realize there is a long road ahead and like, oh, maybe I can't take that trip right now. I really need to focus on this. So, all right, I'm going to make that commitment to start chucking away at this and then do it after, right? Maybe as a reward. That's something I've done before too. So yeah. And then you never know what's going to come up, right? Like there's medical emergencies and life emergencies and all that stuff. So it's like, it can get a little crazy, but you just got to stick with it.
Do you guys find though, maybe the week before the trip, you're hyper productive, ultra productive, or you're getting stuff
like zeroed in? Yeah. You're like, no, I got to get all this, like, you're just like knocking things down right and left. Right.
You almost get like a month of work done in that week prior to that trip. And then, then, you get a little bit of a relaxation, right? Because that's why we're doing it, to have some level of relaxation. And then when you come back, you almost get like another month out of that week and week and a half when you return because you're relaxed and you're focused. I think I heard it from Dan Sullivan. He said, at a certain point, all entrepreneurs need some time off, right? And you may choose to take time off in front of your computer, but you're not productive, right? I choose to do it at the beach or at the Four Seasons, right? Or wherever you're traveling to. Maybe it's, doing mission work, whatever your jam is. But, I think as entrepreneurs, because we're so focused and so type A and so like Tom said, we can put this fire out, we just fire through. We aren't as productive sometimes when we're sitting in front of our computers, but we think we are because we're sitting doing the work, and maybe taking a little quick trip away, knowing that you're going to come back and things are going to be there. The problems are still going to be there. The need to get new clients is still going to be there. The treadmill is going to be there, but you're refreshed and you have a little bit bigger vision is important too, I think.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. It's like, it feels counterproductive. And I struggled with this for a long time. Like I said, I was, in the beginning, I was just working nonstop. And Tom knows this, like, it was very challenging for me to take any kind of break, and it eventually does become counterproductive. You lose your ability you lose your quality, in your productivity and what you're able to produce. And you might think like, well, the more I work, the more output, the more income I will get. But eventually it will just start to taper. You will need to rebuild your bandwidth, and you do that by not doing anything, really, is what it comes down to. I mean, and it could be at the beach, it could be, on the couch, it could be, in the yard on a chair with a book like that. If it's not work related, that's when you're actually recharging, and you have to force yourself, to do that. And it's the same. I mean, I know that about my nature. I think it's kind of in my DNA. It's like the days I don't get to go do something physical or play a sport are like the worst days. And it's the same in business. The days that I don't get to work are the worst days. They're the most difficult days. I have to like fight myself to not look at the phone. I don't even know if that really ever truly does happen still.
Yeah, well, and to go back to the point about like, maybe you're not ready to, just because you're not ready to take a week-long vacation because you're building your business and you're at the beginning, doesn't mean you can't take a day or 2 days, right? Like, it's important to, like, I sometimes like think a lot in extremes, like, oh, I need to take a 2-week vacation. And like, the reality is maybe I just need a day, to like turn everything off and just get my bearings, and then I'll feel better the next day. So, in the beginning, you may not be taking those big, long, extended trips. Like, you might not be able to go for a month and head to Europe, but you can take a day or two, right? Every couple in a week, like 1 day a week, to just be like, okay, I'm just going to take 1 day this week and I'm just going to do X or not do anything or whatever it is. So that's, I think, important to remember as well.
Yeah. I'm curious, for everybody that's here with us listening, when is the last time you took a little bit of a break? When's the last time you took a full day off? Let us know in the chat. How long has it been since you've been grinding? Some of you have probably just been cruising, taking days off every day. A lot of you probably not taking any days off at all, but I am curious to see what everybody says. You were going to say something, Tom? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, actually, I just wanted to do one thing because I know we're coming up on we got like 15 minutes left. I want to get to some more questions and stuff, but I did want to take a minute and just acknowledge our member of the week. So 7 years, Enrique. Take a day off, dude.
Somebody get this man a day off.
I wanted to take a minute to acknowledge our member of the week. So every week on the live show, we give away one of these Shark treasure chests to somebody who's a good steward of our community in the Facebook group. They're either post to win, they're answering questions, they're helping people out. They're just doing good in the group. And so this week, oh wait, here, I got to play let me play this first. This week, our member of the week is Andy Powell. It took me a while to click all those buttons. Andy Powell, streamlining his business and making the necessary adjustments as he encouraged to scale his agency, hired help and delegate, and picked up a whale of a client. So congratulations, Andy. You're a member of the week. Somebody from the team will reach out to you. We'll get your info. We'll get one of these treasure chests sent your way. So congratulations.
Hired help, delegate, and picked up a whale of a client. I mean, that sounds like an awesome week.
A big win, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big win. Too, and maybe some of you are, new to our community, or maybe you're new on the live shows, and you might be wondering, like, well, how, like, we talk a lot about how we built this business, how we can do these things that we're doing. But one of the kind of, one of the key things in what we do is, like, we really have like 5 core services that we focus on in the agency that have allowed us to build out the remote type agency that we talk about here all the time. And so Nick actually did a little video talking about those 5 core services. So maybe if you're like, you know, wherever you're at in your business, maybe you're only doing 1 service, 2 services. Maybe you're wondering like, well, how do I build this out to have a business like you guys are talking about where I can step away and it operates and runs and all that stuff. This is a really good video to check out. I'm going to put a link under here. Just when the live's over, go check it out. You just go to remotemillionaires.com, 5-core-services, and we'll drop a link in the chat as well. But you can go check this video out. Nick kind of talks about the 5 core services. Getting those 5 core services in place, along with some of the other things we talk about, is a really good first step towards building the type of business that we're talking about on this call. So you guys might want to go check that out as well.
And it's free, right? There's nothing to buy there.
Free. Yeah, there's nothing. Yeah, you don't have to do anything. It's just free training. So go check that baby out. Any other questions you guys have? You want to pop in the chat box while you have us here?
Yeah.
Andy said, "Wow, I actually won something in life." Good job, Andy. Good job.
Norm says, did Kevin go to Europe? Kevin did not go to Europe. Kevin's at home.
Norm also said, after working like a dog, I now appreciate the value of just a day or two off to recharge and reset. Yeah, I do think that is an important step in the entrepreneurial journey, right? Is scheduling a day off a week, you know, like just so you can recharge and stay in there. So awesome. Let me look up here and see. Patty said she hadn't taken a day off since the pandemic.
Damn. It's time, Patty. It's time to do it.
Somebody's on a two break now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, also, I know that like it may seem like I'm leaving for quite some time and all that, but like I said, I've been pretty much working every day this entire time. Also, I have like the ultimate deadline coming right now, right? Like I have a baby on the way, so I am planning ahead. I'm getting all this squared away now. This trip is one that I've wanted to take my wife on for a long time because I'm planning on, going back and being very focused before that newborn comes, right? And
yeah.
Now I have the ultimate deadline. So
yeah. Here's I saw a couple of great questions up here too. So I'm not sure who this is. When you log in and give StreamYard permission, we can see your name. But he said, do we implement the conversion suite services into your business, reputation management videos, etc.? And yes, we do. So we actually use all of those softwares that are in that suite in our business. So, Lead Kahuna, that's our preferred list building tool. We use a lot of the other softwares from strategic marketers as part of our process. Now, with what we kind of talk about in Remote Millionaires and what we do in our business, like we use those software tools, but we're not the ones actually running them, right? So we have people on our team that are trained and know what to do, how to use those tools, either for the fulfillment, the prospecting, the lead generation, all that stuff. So, but yeah, we do use them. Nick, Norm wanted to know where's the best place to buy tickets for flights, or maybe either Nick. You guys have any suggestions on how to do that?
Nick, you want to take that one?
Well, I think sometimes if you're have services, you need to go in direct, right? Because that way that you never will get bumped. Sometimes if you use the kayaks of the world and some of the third-party aggregators, as flights get tighter, especially going to Europe, you could get bumped. So you always want to make sure that ticket's protected. There are third-party like sites that you could look in. It's like almost auction off your ticket, right? So it's you could find great deals, but flights are getting fuller and fuller and fuller nowadays. And so, especially if you're flying to Europe, you always have a connection usually. And so you got to be careful. So I go direct through United or some of the others for that reason, because the last thing you want to do is get stuck in, missing your connecting air fare as you're going trying to get to Rome and get stuck in Germany for a week. Nothing wrong with that. But, when you had plans to go to Rome, everybody would be happy. But you always look for Bing had really good travel, so that you could just put in, these are the flights I'm looking at, and it will ping you when those flights are available. And I would maximize points, right? As entrepreneurs, we use credit cards sometimes. So, go on the site, the points guy, maximize points, buy a United credit card or a Marriott credit card or whatever the choice is, American, whatever you're going to fly. And, listen, we flew when I owned my agency because we were buying all the media on the credit card. We were buying, we were doing all the sources of income from the credit card, paid for all of our trips, right? Or we did trade. I don't know if trade is still big, but like IMS trade and that. So we go to Arizona and buy hotel rooms through local trade brokers and things of that nature. So there's a lot of things you could do when you're traveling and have the agency, quote unquote, pay for it.
Yeah. I think you used the points to get part of the trip for what you're on, didn't you, Nick? I totally forgot about that. Like, that is a really good hack. That's a great,
Well, what I like to do too, this is another thing that I do, is before, like if I know I'm going to go on a trip, I like to try to do some research on the trip and the place that I'm going. And I try to build out some sort of an agenda for at least my initial flight, so I can do some sort of work on that trip and get, the tax write-off of that flight. So for example, my initial flight was to Paris. And so I interviewed somebody in Paris to join the agency team. And so I had to go there, meet that person, and write off that flight to Paris. Now, my flight's going to be a write-off, but my wife's flight, that was points. So she gets, I use the points for her. I get to write off mine, 30%. So that's another thing you can do. So if you're ever going to go on a trip, I mean, there's a lot that you can do. You can go to a meetup. You can go to a networking meeting. There's a lot of free things that you can do online that are work-related that you can tie into your work trip to write that trip off. And I would pretty much never, ever take a trip without doing that.
Yeah, that's a great hack right there. Juan had a good question.
I used to do training.
That's good.
Nick, I'm just squeeze in training. So I'm going to be doing it. Just do it as a quick meetup, or we knew people, hey, let's train at XYZ hotel, and bring your friends, bring your family, that type of thing. So I love that. So now a portion of that trip is paid off. And that's listen, we're entrepreneurs for a reason, because we want to achieve goals, but we also want to benefit from it. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Tom, you were going to say something.
No. That's great. Those are both really great tips. I saw Juan ask, he said, I'm starting out. What's the best way to get people to work with you? Juan, are you talking about people to be on your team? If you're talking about people to be on your team, the best approach that we found is what we call the Rolodex approach. So we actually actively build a Rolodex of people and vet them for fulfillment before we ever hire anybody. So the way that process works is like this. So like, we know okay, we're going to offer SEO as a service. So we may go and post a job for somebody to help us with SEO. We then vet them. While we're vetting them, we tell them hey, we don't have a client right now. We're in the process of getting some new clients, but we're just trying to get the fulfillment lined up. But once we get a client, we'll use you. As long as you're okay with that, we'll just go through this process. Then, we vet them, make sure the quality of the work, they can do what we want, all that stuff. Then we go out, get a client. And when we get the client and collect the setup fee or the deposit, we go back and hire that person. So, having a list of pre-vetted people in your Rolodex for the various things you might need help with, that's really the best way to do that. If you're talking about clients, I mean, it's just the revenue producing activities, right? Prospecting. So I love to have a spouse that works for the airline. Let's see. I'm looking through these comments here. I don't know if anybody does use travel agents anymore. I know they're still out there.
What's actually a pretty cool thing is to ask ChatGPT to write you a 4-day itinerary for the place that you're traveling. And I actually did this before this trip, and it came up with some incredible ideas. And like all of the ideas for each place that I looked at, I was like, these are things that I never would have done. And it was like to the T. It was like accurate. It was like, walk to this coffee shop, have a coffee, try this. From there, catch a bus to this place. And it was like all the connections, and they were all completely accurate. Like I didn't do an entire itinerary, but I definitely got some great ideas.
Wow, that's a good
tip. That is fascinating and
Nick,
scary.
You're gonna like that one. Try that one.
Yeah, that is really cool. My gosh.
Yeah.
It's I heard something the other day. Is like, you won't lose a client or a job or a company to Chat GPT, but you will lose to somebody that uses Chat GPT better than you, right? So it's how do we become better at using Chat GPT to do what we do better and better and better, create an agency, hire staff, vet staff, that type of thing. So that is fascinating. I'm gonna use that one. That really is intriguing.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Well, we're coming up on the end of the hour. Another awesome live show. Great questions, everybody. Excited you're here. Every week on this show, when we post that shout out post in our Facebook group, if you go there and leave a comment like "good job," "way to go," "nice work," we pick a couple of random people at the end of every stream and we just send them $25 Cash App money. So today our winners are Bob Baumez and Patty Ratowski. Congratulations. Awesome. And good. Another congratulations to Andy Powell, our member of the week. The Shark Shout Out team will be reaching out to you. Another great live show. Nick, try to get some rest, have some fun in the Alps tomorrow. Nick Luisi, thanks so much for being here and helping us out. Really appreciate it. We'll see you here next Friday, same shark time, same shark channel. Until then, stay safe, everybody, and practice aloha. We'll see you next week. That was the wrong one.
You've been watching the Aloha Marketing Jam Session, your weekly marketing live show, always bringing you the latest strategies and tactics to build your remote empire from anywhere in the world. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this stream. You can stay up to date throughout the week with the Remote Millionaires Podcast at remotemmillionaires.com/podcast and Nick's YouTube videos at nickponte.com/YouTube. We'll be back here next Friday for another live show. Until then, aloha.